and welcome back to a brand new podcast. Today with me I have a super special guest. His name is Suman Mangu. Hello, Suman.
Hi, Karthik.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good as well. So, Suman, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, so as Karthik mentioned, I am Suman Mangu. I live here in Houston, Texas, and I'm a music producer, and I have my own recording studio. It's a home recording studio, but it's where I work. So, yeah.
In this podcast, Suman and I talk about our music production softwares, and Suman also mentions how he goes about writing and composing certain parts of songs. So Suman, would you like to say why you chose Logic as your main music production software?
Yeah, so I use Logic for producing, composing, and then I actually use Pro Tools for mixing and mastering and recording my vocals. So I don't actually use my vocals. I don't use Logic to record vocals just because, I don't know, I just got used to Pro Tools. But I use Logic for composing and producing whatnot because they just have better sounds. They plugins, they have better tones for instruments and all that out of the box. Once you get Logic, you buy it for $2.99, I think, or $1.99, and it's straight out of the box, really good quality instruments and VSTs and all that. But Pro Tools, they're really good, but they're not as great quality, so I prefer to compose there in Logic.
And you're using Pro Tools to record right now?
Yes, I'm using Pro Tools to record my vocals right now, yes.
And your vocals are way better than mine because I'm in a not well-treated room acoustically.
Yeah, that's a big thing, about vocals. But, I mean, it's okay. It's just a podcast, This is what I
vocals
have.
And production in general. So would you like to elaborate on how you treat your room and what you do to keep out all background noise?
Yeah. So when we got this house, I chose this room because it looked aesthetically pleasing. Number one, but it did have a lot of issues with acoustics. I clapped and there was like a bunch of echo and slap back. So then I got my acoustic foams from Guitar Center. They're Orlax. So, they come in bundles. They have like the 24 bundle pack, 12 bundle pack. So I just got a bunch of that, and then I treated it throughout the room. I have bass traps too. So bass traps are used for what the name says. It's it actually cuts out bass in the sense you put it in the corners of the rooms because that's where bass is accumulated. So then once you put a bass trap there, it actually diffuses the bass. So it's not a buildup of bass. And then I have the regular foams all attached in around my walls. So it's pretty. I don't have it like a radio station per se where it's all completely. I left gaps just because it's good to have not completely dead, especially for singers. If you're singing, doing stuff like that, completely dead. I feel like it might be too dead, which is fine still. Both are fine. I just felt like not keeping it completely dead, so I have a little bit of ambience to work with.
My acoustics aren't that great, but my old room was actually a room that was missing a wall. So this room is an improvement from a room that was missing a wall. Because in this room, it is wood floored, which does not help with acoustics at all. But we did put some carpet on the floor, so it's not entirely carpeted. There are some areas with no carpet. But there is a closet in this room, so if I ever want to seriously record some really important vocals, I can have a somewhat isolated space.
Oh,
Um,
that's good.
uh, and yeah, maybe some bass traps, as you were saying, and some, those panels that they keep, those sound panels
Yeah.
that you have in your studio. And your studio does look like aesthetically pleasing, just like the way you place the panels, it looks so like even, and
Oh yeah.
it looks really nice.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you have a nice studio. It's a nice room.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm planning on like, getting some of those things too. So, but the problem with
Yeah, it's
those
pretty
is
expensive though.
price is one factor, but then another factor is if you take them off, there's a stain on your wall now.
Yeah, that's one thing you have to make sure that's gonna be a permanent place for you as a studio. At least for at least 5 years, 5+ years. You don't want to. Yeah, five. Well, it depends on the people, but if you're not planning to sell your house anytime and you're like planning to have a proper studio for a long time, then I think it's okay to glue them on. I mean, if you're ever gonna sell it, you just take it off and repaint it, I guess. So, you know, either you have good vocals or you have uh, bad vocals and no
Clean walls.
stains. Yeah.
Yeah. So moving on to the software discussion, I use FL Studio Producer Edition, and I'm really excited to step up to Signature Edition. You actually use Melodyne for your vocal tuning, right?
Yeah, I used to use Entrees. Is that how you pronounce it? Uh yeah, so I used to use that, but then I moved to Melodyne, and now I use Melodyne for pitch correction and all that. So I usually only do manual pitch correction. I don't use it for like auto effects wise. I don't use it as an effect. I use it as just correcting the pitch because usually in all my songs I don't have much of that effect, the auto tune effect. Not yet, at least. I don't mind doing that, but I haven't got there yet. So
You have like more natural songs, right?
yeah, I just do more natural songs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how does Melodyne charge? Monthly, or is it a one-time payment per year, or?
There is. I'm not sure if they have subscriptions, but I did the one time. I have the one time. I think it's one time. So you buy it and you have it. I think
All
I
right.
on it. Yeah, you buy it and you have it. I think that's a pretty good option.
Yeah,
Um,
that's how Logic is too, right? You pay for it once and you get unlimited updates.
yeah, I don't know if I think you get unlimited upgrades of Melodyne too. I haven't checked that. I bought it and I just been using it. I don't use it for anything else. So basic pitch correction. So I didn't really need any updates. But Logic, yes, you get unlimited updates once you buy it, which is wonderful.
Same thing with FL. You get unlimited updates. It seems
I
like
think
a
that's becoming
really
a standard. That's becoming a standard for all the other, except for Avid. I think everything else has. I think, if I'm not wrong, I haven't used many other softwares, but I know for sure Pro Tools you have to you have to subscribe to get the updates yearly. Like it's like $100 for updates per year, which is not really bad. It's really not that bad, $100. But I know FL Studio and Pro Logic, they all have unlimited one-time buy.
I wonder if Ableton has that too.
I have a feeling they do, but then again, I wouldn't take my word. I haven't used Ableton yet completely to know that. So
Hmm. And you actually recommended FL Studio to me when I told you that I got a MIDI controller without really like knowing what a MIDI controller does, right?
oh
um,
yeah,
and I needed a Windows software, and you recommended FL Studio.
uh huh, yeah.
And since then, it's been like maybe a year, maybe more. And I just recently got producer edition, and I'm already excited to get signature edition, cause there's like vocal tuning stuff there.
Oh yeah, that's gonna help you a lot, especially for singers.
Uh huh. Because even if the notes are right, just like melodyne and auto tune kind of things, they just add like
And
a
I think
vibe
I
to the
think
song.
I actually think that once you do the Melodyne process or whatever pitch correction, at least for Melodyne, what I realized was even if you don't have much pitch correction going on, if you're like a good tuned singer, even going through the process, I think it adds a layer of processing, which makes it sound more smooth. Um, I think Melodyne automatically adds some type of processing once you go through it. That's what I've seen the difference between a raw and then something that goes through Melodyne, even if you didn't pitch correct. It
Um,
has a slight difference in processing, which I think it's nice. It keeps it all like balanced and it has a nice process to it.
yeah, it just like helps the overall sound of the vocals.
Yes,
Speaking of
exactly.
vocals, so like, what's your process on mixing vocals? Do you like mix your backing track, then you mix your vocals, or do you just do all the mixing in one sitting and then you bounce it and then master?
So what I do is once I when I produce a song, obviously first comes instruments and all that, and once I get to the vocal part, I record my vocals. Um I record my vocals rough first. I do a rough take just so I record it rough with the lyrics and everything, and then I just listen to it a few days, and then if I get any new ideas, I add more, and then finally I go and once everything is set, like I'm like, okay, we can go, like we can record the vocals, serious vocals, go for the final take. Then I sit down and one day and I record my vocals completely in a clean format, um, everything. And then when I mix it, I usually you mix usually for songs the vocals are like the lead. So you would usually you would mix the instruments according to the vocals. So vocals are forefront and everything else is behind, if you want to call it.
Yeah,
But it
and
really depends on the
especially
yeah
in your style, right? The
yeah
style that you've
and
been using so far to produce.
yeah. So it depends on the song again. Some songs are meant for the music to stand out. Some songs where like the vocals are just backings, and then sometimes vice versa. So it really depends on the song and the style.
So usually you mix your instruments and vocals at the same time,
Yeah, so when I sit
and then
down, I do everything together. I don't do just vocals one day and then instruments one day. It's everything is together. I just work around it.
it's not so
Yeah.
much as like producing and then
Yeah, it's not
mixing the
like
production.
producing.
It's
Mixing is
just like
different. Like, yeah.
it's just like you just sit down one day and you just mix everything.
Yeah. And sometimes I take a break in the sense like I mix and then maybe next day I come back to it and mix a little more just cuz I want to have a fresh ear. Sometimes when you're on a song for so long, you need a fresh pair of ears, or you need to take a break and come back to the song so that you're not tired and you don't have a wrong judgment.
Yeah.
It's a good practice to always come back. If you've worked on the song for a week, I suggest you take a break for a few days and then come back to it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
yeah, like if you're sitting on in front of your desk for like 5 hours straight, listening to the same thing over and over again.
That too. I mean, daily breaks are good, and I'm talking about overall as a production. It's also good to take a break between productions, like take a break for a day or two if you've been working on the same production for like 1 or 2 weeks. Take a good break, like 3 days, 4 days, and just come back to it.
Yeah, maybe work on something else, or
Either work on something else or don't work on anything at all, and just come back to it, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, you'll probably find something you didn't find, a mistake or like something to add.
So, how do you start your songs? Like, what's your starting point? Like chord progression, drums. What do you use to just get that
I
good
actually
basis?
start with, it really depends. I usually start 90% of sorry, 90% of the time I start with drums, rhythms. But sometimes I get the melody first, so I go with the melody, like a guitar or piano, or I start with the beat first. So it really depends. Most of my composing is actually done in the car. I'm always on the road, driving to a place to another, so if I've started on a production like the night before, I just export it and then I listen to it in the car, and then I compose. And every time I get a new bit in the song or like get a new idea, I record it on my phone. I go to my voice memo recorder and I'm like, okay, I need to lay this down real quick so I don't forget when I come back that night to actually put that into the computer. So most of my composing, all my great ideas were in the car.
Nice.
Yeah. But
That's
yeah,
pretty
that's
cool.
how
So you usually start with rhythm.
yeah, 80% of the time I could say. But yeah, most of the time. Yeah.
And how do you try to like finish something? Like not finish like mixing and mastering, but finish as
producing,
in you're at the
laying
end
down.
of producing the beat and you need an ending. And what are you going to do? Are you going to like fade the master track or
No, that's not what I do. For ending, I it just I just come back to the hook line, and then I not necessarily fade the master track, but if I probably end there's different ways to end a song, right? You can either end it how you started it, or that's a very very, what do you say, a very popular way to end and start and end a song, by using the starting and come back to the starting at the ending and end it that way. Or you could just end it in a complete different way. Doesn't have anything to do with automating in the sense, just production wise. I would say a lot of times it ended with how I started it. So you come back, you take a circle basically, you start and then you go and then you come back to where you started, which is cool. It works out most of the time.
do you like to have like heavy endings, like end like you know how they say end on a high note, like you just like end with like everything in the track so far, or do you just like to, is it just like how you start like calm and then you have this whole thing in the
I
beginning and the
I
middle,
like calm endings. I
and
like
then you
calm
end calm?
endings. I end calm usually.
Okay.
It's not heavy. It's not like all my heaviness is in the middle. But in my interludes and stuff, but I haven't ended heavy yet. That's a very I've never done that, and I feel like that's a different skill, I haven't got to a point where I've ended a song heavy. I guess that would come. I don't know many songs that end heavy like that. Usually songs end light, as in like, I don't know. Do you know any songs that end like heavy?
Heavy. Let me think. I don't. I'm not sure, But I know the song that I composed at the beginning of this month. You remember the one that I composed for my class?
Uh-huh.
I had quite a heavy ending on that one.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just a producer's choice, I guess, of how what he's going for and stuff. But most of my songs end kind of light in the sense not like mellow, but I mean like light in the sense, instrumental wise. They end with like either one or two instruments. They don't really end with multiple heavy orchestration instruments. You
So
know.
you're kind of like you start the song slow and like not like slow but like, lower, like not as heavy, and then you go
Yes.
on this journey throughout the middle like
Yeah, and then I
and then
come
near
back
the
to
ending, you come back to like slow and then
yeah,
calm.
calm. Yeah, come back to where I started. Yeah,
That's nice.
yeah.
Um and like what do you usually do if you're stuck on a loop? If you're just on a loop and you don't know where to go? What's your take on that?
If it goes stale, I completely stop it. You know, I have so many tunes where I've just sat down and laid down something just cause, and then I didn't know what to do with it, and I'm like, okay, I'm done for today. And then maybe like 2 weeks later, I'm like, hey, what's this? And I open it up, and I'm like, I listen to it. I'm like, wait, I can do this with this. So sometimes sometimes there's days where every day almost like I at least spend 1 hour in my studio every day, and if I'm not working on a current project already, I start a new project, and it doesn't have to be because I'm starting something because I have to put out something. I just do something so that I can let out some inspiration or whatever from that day. And sometimes it goes nowhere that day. Most of the time, that's what happens. So then I come back, but then I've I've come back to it after 2 3 weeks or after a month or after 2 months, and I have better ideas on what I can do with that beat. So um, yeah, yeah. That's fine. Go ahead. Yeah, so I try not to lose it just because you can go stale. You don't want to go stale on your creative side. I feel like whatever, even if it's like a 4/4 signature that's so simple, nothing to it, just lay it down. You might use it. You'll might might is understatement. You will use it in the future. You just don't have the idea right now. That's what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, how do you go about like vibes on your song? Like, if you want a certain vibe, I know this like is very dependent on what kind of song you're working on. But
Hmm.
if you want a certain type of like, if you want like a pop song, or if you want like a rock song, like how does it affect what you're gonna do in the process?
Yeah, so if I'm going for a certain type of song, obviously I'll lean towards those types of instruments. So let's say a rock song. Obviously, a rock song you would use acoustic drums and live live instruments. Not live in the sense me playing live here, but me live instruments in MIDI too, like acoustic instruments, like acoustic guitars, stuff like that. So there's if you're thinking of a certain vibe or a certain genre, there's certain instruments you would use, and that's a basic rule. But then you can break that rule. You could add, like in a rock song, you could add some electronics and stuff and make it sound completely different. But it will still have that vibe, but you'll be mixing other vibes with it, and not vibes. You'll be mixing other types of genre in it, and it'll come out to be a different different vibe, and it'll be nice. So there's no so you'll stick to a baseline of certain instruments for certain um genres, and then you can work off of that. You can improvise, add different instruments and stuff. So basically it comes down to all of it comes down to instrumentation and what type of instruments you're using. So for certain vibes, for electronic music, for trap music, you would usually use those type of electronic drum kits, electronic whatnot. So that's how you go about it.
Nice. So you're saying that a lot of the way your song comes across depends on what instruments you use to start the song, and what instruments you use to start the song basically defines the core of the song, and then all the other instruments, they just add on top of the song, make it your own style.
Yeah, basically.
And make it unique from all the other music that you hear.
Yeah, basically. You would need to set your what do you say? You set your fundamentals correct first. So you can't have a song without its bass. You set your bass first, and then you can do whatever you want. You can go crazy with it. But first you got to have that bass.
Bass as in fundamentals, not bass line.
Yes, bass as in fundamentals. The foundation of an house. If you want to do a rock song, you can't start off with some indie. I mean, you can't have indie vibe. You can, but you have to set that mood first, and then you can go into anything else.
Mm-hmm. Whatever you do, make sure where you start is where you want to end. Like whatever vibe you start with is the vibe you want to come across.
Yeah. Make sure you don't lose the vibe. Make sure you don't just make it a whole melting pot, because then people will be like, what just happened? Like, is this a hip hop song? Is this a rap song? Is this a love song?
What's going on?
What's going on?
What am I listening to?
Yeah.
So Suman, thank you so much for joining me today on the Sinthum Studios podcast.
Thank you for inviting me, Karthik.
No problem. We should do this again sometime. Maybe talk about some other topics. Maybe even make a YouTube video, right?
Yeah, that'd be great. I'm totally down.
And thank all of you guys for listening. This was the Sinthum Studios podcast.